Hello and welcome to In Business Talks 2 Friday Fix. We're your hosts, husband and wife team Tracy and Ian L, founders of In Business, a networking and business support community. Along with our guests, we come together to bring you information, education and knowledge to help you grow your business.
Get ready to laugh, learn and be inspired as we talk to James Hall about business coaching. He'll be sharing his thoughts and insights that'll have you glued to your headphones.
So sit back, relax and let's start this journey together. This is In Business Talk 2 Friday Fix, your ultimate destination for business insights from our business friends.
Welcome to today's Friday Fix. We have with us today the lovely James Hall of James Hall Coaching. Welcome, James.
Hello, how are you both?
Well, fine,
Good,
thank you.
good.
Welcome, James. Good to see you today.
Good to
Nice
see you
to
again.
see you.
Not seen you for a while. So,
Just before we start, would you like to tell us a bit about what you do before we get into our conversation? So what is it you do, James?
Yeah, I mean, I run a coaching business on a part-time basis. I help people who are probably feeling a little bit sort of overwhelmed at the moment. There's too much things going on in their heads. It feels a bit like fog. They haven't got enough time. Their plans have gone a little bit awry and they just need to sort of have some support to be able to stand back, reset themselves, put a plan in place and then go again. And I do that with them. And then I have the great pleasure of sitting, listening to them a few weeks down the line when they basically make me smile because they've achieved their successes and they share with me all what they've achieved over that period of time. So that's what I do. I help people to create success, whatever it would be that they were striving to achieve.
Excellent, cool.
Sounds
good. Sounds good.
So I think today we're going to be talking about coaching, business coaching in general. Now, people think coaching and mentoring's very similar, but I think you would disagree with that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I've done both over the years. My background's in sales, so having a background in sales management, running a sales division, I mentor some of our area managers in my day job to help them settle in. So some of those experiences which I've had, I can share with them. So quite often I'm able to draw on past experiences, past knowledge, and pass that on to them. Whereas coaching, I actually don't need to know anything about the subject matter in its place because I will ask a series of questions with an inquisitive mind and I'll help them come up with the solutions that they're going to do. So I think the first thing I would always say to anybody who's looking for that support is be clear on what support it is you want. If you're wanting a mentor, that's absolutely fine. There's no problem with that at all. But go with somebody who's got experience and knowledge of that particular subject matter that you're talking about. If you're looking for a coach, I would strongly recommend you go with a coach you build chemistry for. And the coach is going to take you into a place. So I like to get people to think about Forrest Gump because that's one of my favourite films of all time. And there's things in Forrest Gump you sort of go through in terms of how coaching journeys go. But do you remember Forrest Gump's house, which he lived in?
Vaguely,
Remember
yeah.
the house?
Yeah, it's a long time since I've seen it. Yeah,
Long old house. So people are either scared of the attic or the basement. So I'm going to take you into the one you're most scared of because ultimately I'm going to try and pull away some of those bits which you try and hide from yourself. And with an inquisitive set of questions, I'll ask you what that is. So more people are scared of the basement than they are of the attic, they tell me. But that tends to where we go and try and understand what their why is. And then we work through how we're going to achieve it. You'll watch Forrest Gump now.
Yeah.
I've not seen that for years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, then, from a coaching point of view, what do people tend to need more? What do they ask you? What is there some common questions that people ask? Some common things that people struggle with? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, quite often there's a bit of a facade to what the real problem is. And that's why we talk about going into the basement, is because they'll come with a problem. I want to grow my business. I want to streamline my business. I want more time for myself. I'm feeling overwhelmed. But when you break it through, it's something else. Quite often it's self-belief. And we're all very hard on ourselves at the best of times. So people are either hard on themselves in terms of they don't give themselves enough credit, which is one of the problems, and therefore that starts doubting their self-belief when things go slightly wrong. Or there is that niggle in there where, be it the imposter syndrome, as some people call it, people start just doubting themselves. They look around at other people and go, their business is bigger, or why has their business got more followers, or why has this happened? And when you break it down, quite often we just need to talk about that thing which is in the basement. And self-belief is the hidden thing which we end up talking about a lot of the time.
Is it? Is that one of the most common things in self-belief? I suppose a lot of people do.
It's the thing behind. It's the thing behind the. As I say, say if somebody's like feeling overwhelmed, which is quite a regular one, or I don't have enough time. There'll be something that's holding them back. So I take too long. I will check things 3 times because I don't believe in myself just to do it once, or I lack a little bit of confidence, so I will just take that bit more time. Whereas when your confidence is going, when they meet the person who's full of confidence and they just bang it out and they do it and they go. And that's part of the fun that I get, is that when people build that little bit of confidence up, and what I say by that is I call it the book of success. And at this time of year, it's really important when people say, have you had a good year? And they go, yeah, it's been all right. Or it's not been good. Actually, when you break it down, you've probably had much more successes, little wins, than they give credit for.
Right.
And why should people use a business coach?
A business coach often gets employed when something's going wrong, but it's like having a coach to keep you going along the journey as it is. I'm not a massive fan of people signing up for 12 months or 2 years at one go. I quite like my clients coming in, dealing with a particular problem at that particular time, then maybe disappearing for 3, 6, 9, 12 months and come back and have another, what one guy calls his MOT. He comes back every year for his MOT. And we take our cars to the garage for a checkup. So just having that support, excuse me, having that support, because it can be lonely at the top, can't it? So you're often on your own and you've got nobody to bounce your ideas off, or you've got nobody to sort of get a different perspective from. So a lot of my clients are people who come, do a bit, then go. But equally, depending on the issue, they might be here for a 6 months, once a month catch up and go through it. So it depends on what their issue is. But that's why it's important just to create a plan and a program which is specific for them. But for me, I've had a coach now for a number of years, and without having a mentor when I needed a mentor and a coach when I needed a coach, some of the career progression that I had, or even starting this business, wouldn't have happened, because I needed that outside perspective. I needed that accountability, and I needed that sort of either shoulder around the arm or that little bit of knowledge to help me along the way, or that support to cheering me on.
Yeah. I suppose it's a bit, you're like a sounding board really for people as well, aren't you? I mean, people can
be.
If you're running your business yourself, sometimes it's difficult to know what the next step is or if you're going to make the right decision. And having someone you can sort of talk to who's not involved in it, I'm sure that must make it easier. Or it gives you another insight. It gives you another view on the thing.
And that's the really important about going back to the start about coaching and mentoring. Depending if you're looking for a sounding board, and so depending on what business you're going to go into, if you're needing that sounding board, if it's a sounding board that you need, it may be a coach because he or she's going to ask you lots of questions and just clarify your plan and your thinking. If it's a sounding board where you actually want to get a response and say, I'm thinking of doing X, Y, and Z, and they go, whoa, then that's your mentor. But it's been having that very clear distinction between what you're going to do. Now, depending on what subject matter it is, I can coach and I can take that hat off and I can mentor. But equally, there are some cases where I'd say to potential clients, go, no, I'm not your right person. You need to speak to a mentor who has got experience in, for argument's sake, networking or whatever it would be. So it's choosing. The really important to be is going back at the start, standing back and being really clear of what you want. And until you've got that, you might end up getting yourself a hammer when you need a screwdriver. And that's the really important thing. Get the right tool for your support you need.
Right.
So do you think people recognise when they should be using a coach, or do you think it usually gets to that crisis point and they think, oh shit, I need to sort this out?
Um, I'd like to think people would sort it out early, but
Mm.
back to the point about it being overwhelmed, we get so. I used to say this when I ran sales teams. You bet if you can remove the pressure from somebody, then they can run freer, and
Mm.
they can see things clearer. When they've got a lot of pressure on them, their faces are next to the coal face. They're constantly working in their business, and therefore they can't see it. But I think a number of people have had coaches for a number of years, and there've been a support process through that experience. And other people, I think they do get the coaches when it's that crisis point. But if you
Mm.
can get it 6 months, 12 months before the crisis point, you
Mm.
avoid the crisis, don't you?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Prevention, I suppose.
prevention
Yeah,
is the core.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
So would you say then that most people, if they're working by themselves, ought to get themselves a coach? Would that be
I
Oh, you
say
would say
that.
that, of course. So wouldn't you? Of course you say that, yeah. But
No, actually, I say that jokingly. And I think on a serious note, networking groups like yours and having that support network doesn't need to be a paid coach or a mentor, but you've got to have somebody who's there to support you. So if I take my mum will always say, Jamie, he's going to be a great coach. She would be the worst support for me because she's too close.
yeah,
I can't coach my family because I'm too close. But if you've got a best friend or a colleague, or there's somebody in the networking group you're happy to do this with, then that's your support. I think your support network is everything, isn't it?
yeah,
And
definitely.
sometimes you just need that coach who is not too close, not involved, not emotionally attached to it. And yes, people will need coaches, but I think everybody needs some support, but whether the coach is the right thing. And then the other thing is you've got to work out where you invest your money, haven't you? So if you've got, if you've, I invest in a coach and I invest probably about 25% of my turnover in that, but that's my choice. And that's how I think my business will grow long term. But other people have got to invest in their infrastructure or in their marketing. And I would always suggest something like uh, the Wheel of Life. You can get that for either for a life or you can get it for business. And if you've never seen it, I'm more than happy to send it to any of your listeners. And it's something you can fill in, and you get to see where your three priorities are for the next period of time. But you've got to cut your cloth where it is. And as I say, when you've got support networks like what you run, you've got that element of support there, and if that's sufficient for that person in that moment in time, well, that's got to be the right thing. But yeah, I think I personally would always advocate having a coach or a mentor.
Well, I mean, what things do you think people need to be aware of before they hire a coach? Is there a do's and don'ts of hiring a
Yeah,
business coach?
number one thing above anything else, the chemistry with your coach. You've got to have good chemistry. And I think for me, you can go out there, it's like anything, isn't it? It's price versus value. You can go on the internet and you can find yourself a reasonably priced coach, and you can find yourself a very expensive price coach. But if you're not going to go into that relationship, and as I say, be happy to be taken into that basement in Forrest Gump's house, happy to the fact that I'm going to ask you questions which you've probably put off asking yourself for a long period of time. And quite often I call it the lightning bolt moment. It's where you feel them shudder and they've realized the bit which they've done. So that's where your questioning goes. So if you can't have a relationship with your coach where you think, actually, I can have some banter with this guy. I can tell this guy my innermost worries about my business. I can tell him about that self-belief, that little voice in my head. It might sound stupid to you, James, but this is what I feel, or this is what I think sometimes. Then they're in the right place. If they come and there's no chemistry and they're looking at it purely from a price angle, then they may end up with a coach who's not got the right experience, might not have the right chemistry, right relationship, or if they're going for a mentor, might not have the right knowledge. And as I said before, I can't mentor on 90% of the materials out there because I don't have that experience. But I can coach on 90% of situations there is. So it's that trust and relationship.
Well, when you're looking to take on a coach, then what sort of questions should you be? Well, asking yourself, I suppose. And another question you should be asking the coach to try and find out if you will get on with them, if you will, if you can work together or whatever. What?
Yeah, I mean, I always have a chemistry session with people, half an hour, what I call a natter. And what I'm looking for them is their commitment. So they will get 100% commitment from me every single time. And what I mean by that is, what are the services that coach particularly offers? So some coaches will say, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, as in you're signing up for 6 months, it's payment up front. Other coaches will put you on retainer programs. Some coaches will write notes up, some coaches won't. Some coaches will offer accountability between sessions, some won't. I offer programs bespoke to the individual. There's no formal program set in place. So I don't say in week 1 we'll go chapter 1 and in week 12 we'll go chapter 12. It's all bespoke to the client. I also always write up the notes so they've got something to refer back to, and I always offer them like a WhatsApp, a LinkedIn message, or an email facility so they can sort of share their successes as they go. So be clear on what it is you want. So, we talk about introvert thinking and extrovert thinking, or we talk about learning styles, be it visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. Have an idea of what you want from that coach, and if they I don't write up notes and you want notes, that could be a red flag. If it's like I don't want notes but you do notes, that could be equally a red flag. But understanding what your why is and what is it you really, really want. And so just be clear on what it is, the service that they offer, and everything that they go through. But be testing them out and see, like, understanding what their experience is and how long have they been a coach for. It's not a regulated industry, so anybody can call themselves a coach. But so what is their experience? Have they been coaching for a week, a month, a year, 10 years? What sort of clients have they got? Testimonials are always a good thing to have available. A couple of my clients have always said they're available for a chat. If somebody says, yeah, you sound okay, but I wouldn't mind speaking to one of your clients, a couple of my clients have always said, yep, happy to take a phone call and just have a chat where it is. But I think you need that gut feel for me. Be really clear on what you want before you go onto the call. And how I found my current coach is I'd followed her on LinkedIn for a while. I'd looked at a lot of her YouTube stuff, some of the stuff that she'd been doing, and just got a feel for what she did. Then we had a natter because I just seeking some support. Didn't speak to her for about 3 or 4 months. My old coach semi-retired. She went to have a baby. And so I was in search of a new coach. And I went back to her and said, can you coach me? And that's how it all started. In mentoring in the past, I've gone to people who I trust and who are going to sort of say to me what it really is. Because you don't want, excuse my language, you don't want any of that fluffy bullshit. You want people to say, you need to be doing this. So be clear on the mentoring and the coaching, your relationship you've got, the chemistry you've got, but really, really important, why is it you need a coach or a mentor?
Right.
What have you got a standout moment, James, that from somebody that you've coached that you just think, yes, that really made a difference? I'd just like to hear that.
Ooh, there's a few. There was one this summer. I won't give any names because
No,
we don't want any
names.
names.
I wrote the notes after we'd finished, and I think I wrote the opening sentence something like, "This was fantastic today. The first 7 minutes of our conversation, you just made me smile." And I sat there and smiled, because what we always do is we always set three actions, 3 goals, three things to work on between sessions. And I said, so how did it go? How did those 3 things go? And they told me the 3 things. And I'm just sat there, and my jaw was aching. And one of the things that we'd started off doing, remember I said you start off with a problem, but there's more things behind it. It was a business related problem. It was a career related problem. But the real crux was they wanted to spend more time with the family. And most of that 7 minutes was them telling me about the things they'd done with their family. 2 months before, they were spending 1 chip, So I said, if you break your day into 24 chips, how many chips would you spend with your family? He says, probably one a week. This 7 minutes was one chip after another chip after another chip. So for me, that would be the highlight of this year, definitely, because you've taken the original problem, we've solved the original problem, but we're working on much more longer term things. And what I would say is, if you remember when the kids were little and they're on a bike and they've got the stabilizers, part of being a coach, in my opinion, is I work with them to have the confidence to remove those stabilizers. And then before they know it, they're riding off into the sunset. And that's where he was. He was riding off into the sunset. He didn't really need me for those issues. There's always the next hill to climb, and we had other stuff to talk about. But yeah, those conversations were probably the highlight of the year for me.
Oh,
That sounds like a good story. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, good.
Mm-hmm. So if people do want to get in touch with you, James, what's the best way that they can do that?
Best way, I would say, is get through LinkedIn. Just get through me on LinkedIn. Or they can find me at jameshallcoaching.co.uk.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll put those details in the chat anyway. In the chat in go on,
in the show notes.
In the show notes, not the chat. We won't put it in the chat at all. We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah,
No problem.
Yeah,
get in touch with you.
Yeah,
then they can do.
Yeah, yeah. No, thanks for joining us today. It's been an interesting chat, and thanks for the information you've passed on and some of the tips and things that you've given us.
Yeah, hopefully that was
one thing I would say is before you go, give yourself 45 minutes, half an hour, a point in the day. Whether I'm a morning person and I like being outside. It's a bit cold now, but a morning person I would be. So I'd sit somewhere there was light and just go through your year and think about all the highlights you've had of the year. Because as I say, we're all very good at beating ourselves up. And I call it Book of Success. And there's lots of posts I write with hashtag Book of Success. But just give yourself a few minutes to give yourself a pat on the back and go, actually, good year. And it was because of all these things which you've done. You would be amazed how many little successes which you've forgotten about. Just start in January and work through to December and just capture your Book of Success for the year. That would be my ask of anybody listening today.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about your Book of Success before, and it's a lovely idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's probably loads of stuff that you don't think.
Yeah, you tend to focus on the negative stuff. To be fair, don't you? Remember the negative stuff more than the good stuff, don't you? That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
So that's my challenge to you both.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay,
right,
then,
we'll do
James.
that then. We'll do that then. We'll do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James.
No problem. See ya.
Thank you.
See you, James. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful. We'd love to see you at one of our networking events. Be sure to check out our website for any upcoming events. If you'd like to learn more about networking, why not take a look at our networking know-how courses designed to help you improve your networking skills.
We also have a series of books available on Amazon, such as How to Improve Your Business Networking Skills, 52 Tips to Help You with Your Networking, our Notably Networking One-to-One Notebook, a place to keep all your notes from those follow-up one-to-ones, and not forgetting our 90 Days to Your Success Journal, where you can plan, set and plot the actions you will take to achieve your goals.
We hope you join us again next time, and don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening, we really appreciate it, and until next time, this is Ian and Tracy, and together we are in business.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.